After about 3 years of waiting, Wuthering Waves is finally out. I wouldn't call this a proper review, but oh well. I'm just talking about Wuthering Waves and my thoughts. Like the title states, it's a mostly positive review, so don't worry, I'm not just blindly bashing the game, even though I will be talking about some of the issues. I do have some things I want to mention about Genshin, so if you're mostly here for the Wuthering Waves review, here's a timestamp. It's really not that long, but here's a timestamp regardless. I am a big fan of open world games, but they usually cost money to play, and I do not have that kind of money. So when I saw Genshin being open world, well made, and most importantly free to play, I was very pleased. I've heard about gacha games before, but they always gave me an icky feeling, so I never played one. So like many others, Genshin was my first gacha game. It's not my first video game though. I started Genshin during the summer of 2021. It has been about 3 years of playing this game, and it has become one of my favorite games of all time. When I started playing Genshin, I saw a Wuthering Waves trailer, or teaser, I don't know, and that really piqued my interest, and I was hoping it would come out soon so I could play it too. If I'm being honest, I was more excited for Wuthering Waves than Genshin initially, but they took so long to come out that I got to discover all the great things about Genshin, so it's still a win for me. I am recording this after the 4.7 livestream just to see what Genshin has in store for the future, and oh my god, Natlin looks so good. Based on the very, very small sneak peek we got of it, I am so happy it is colorful. African cultures have a lot of color to them, and they're very vibrant, and I'm glad they didn't go the desolate and inhabitable route, at least based on what we saw, and it looks like Hoyo is starting to add some form of endgame content, which isn't too surprising. It was kind of leaked during the beginning of Fontaine, and also, they never said they weren't gonna add endgame content to begin with. They just said they weren't adding a Spiral Abyss 2.0, and then drama content creators with the reading comprehension skills of a toddler skew it into MiHoYo not wanting to add any form of ending content at all, which just isn't true. Hopefully they add more stuff like this in the future. The Fontaine update as a whole has been filled with many quality of life changes, and this just makes it all better. I can't wait for Natlin, and even though I wasn't planning on quitting Genshin to begin with, the livestream and animated short strengthened my will to keep playing this game to see where Hoyo takes it. For me personally, Wuthering Waves was more of a Honkai Star Rail replacement than a Genshin replacement. Now, enough about Genshin, onto Wuthering Waves. It came out a few days ago. I've only played it for those few days, so these are very early game feelings. But so far for me, it has been very mixed. The game is good. I enjoyed it. The world is fascinating, and the character designs are nice. By all accounts, I'm having a great time, don't get me wrong. But I'd be lying if I said the lagging and glitches didn't annoy me, especially when I'm fighting an enemy. The voice acting, especially for the English voices, were not horrible, but not that great either, except for like maybe Scar. Also visual and text bugs. The music is kind of meh, not really memorable, but not horrendous either. And I hope that changes in the future. I wish they pushed back the release to fix these issues, but I understand they were on a time crunch and probably don't want to compete with the release of Zenless Zero and Natlin's upcoming release in like 2 months, which is wild. Fontaine feels like it just came out. It does seem like they've been very responsive and listening to players' concerns. When your game is borderline unplayable for some, especially on release, you'd have no choice but to respond, but good on them regardless for listening to players. Hopefully this is the last time the game will face issues this severe. It's really not a good look, but even with all the issues, I can still see that this is a really good game that has had a lot of work and effort put into it. It has a lot of potential to become a great game on par with Genshin, if not already. Genshin had a rough start too, and it's successful now, so give Kuro the benefit of the doubt and continue playing the game if you were previously excited. I am just happy to have another open world game other than Genshin to play after all this time. It also seems like the devs for Genshin and Wuthering Waves seem to be on good terms, if only the fandom could be the same. I am planning on continuing playing it, and I hope everyone else gets to at least check it out as well when everything is fixed. I might even make some character analysis video on it in the future. If you want to play Wuthering Waves and all the negative feedback is deterring you, just wait maybe a week or two and everything should be fixed. You wouldn't have missed out on much, and you will probably have a better experience than a lot of the people who are having bad experiences right now. All the rewards, especially the 5-star selector, will still be in your mail until next year, I believe. At the end of the day, you're allowed to play whatever you want, and I don't understand the exponential hate either game receives. Obviously, criticism is needed for growth, but most of what I've been seeing is just blind hate for both games. Either like MiHoYo diehards who will never criticize Genshin, or like Kuro diehards who get upset when anyone says anything bad about Wuthering Waves, even though it has a shit ton of issues just like Genshin. And blind hate on either side does no one any good. Instead of whining, because that's what most of y'all are doing, most of the ones hating are doing, a bunch of whining whiners. Instead of whining, maybe try to enjoy the game and just talk about what you like about them with other players. And if you want to talk about the negatives, do it respectfully. Toxicity helps no one but makes fandom spaces uncomfortable to be in. Play nice for God's sakes, it's not that hard. And I know some content creators have nothing better else to do and can't make good content, good actual useful content to save their lives, will try to start drama, but just ignore them and enjoy playing the game. And if you give attention seekers attention, they'll just continue doing it. It's just rage bait. On my end though, like I said, I would like to do some character analysis videos on the characters in Wuthering Waves. I might do Jan first. I really enjoyed his involvement in the story and he made the last act the best act for me. I will do his story quest after this and see if there's anything to say about his character. Who knows, maybe this week's video will be about him. Character-wise, I really like Rover, Scar, and Gian. They made the story much more fun to go through, and the VAs seem to be the best one so far, at least for Scar and Gian. The massive info dumping in the beginning of the story was jarring, not only because info dumping right out the gate is something very few people can pull off, and they most definitely didn't pull it off. The text not loading completely and being cut off didn't help either, but it did get better. It did got better by the last 2 arcs, so if you were wondering if it got better, yes it does. The beginning does not do it justice at all, and I hope you don't judge the entire story based solely on the beginning. I feel like you have to give Kuro a lot of slack for this, give them a second chance, because based solely on the launch, I can understand why a lot of people wouldn't want to play this anymore, but they seem to be doing a good job in like trying to fix everything, except for removing Scar's onigiri thing. That was weird. Anywho, I did notice people telling others to just use the skip button if they didn't like the story. Personally, I think it's better if Kuro just wrote a good story instead of using a cop-out like a skip button. I'm hoping they will continue to improve the story instead of just putting it on a back burner, because we can technically skip it. I'm glad the option is there, but I don't want it to come at the cost of the story. You know what I mean? Like, skip buttons existing is good. Not everyone wants to read the story, but they should also write a good story so those who are here for the story get something good, if that makes sense. I've also seen some people spread misinformation about MiHoYo sabotaging Wuthering Waves' release by releasing content during its launch week, but everything MiHoYo has done has been business as usual. We've been getting a lot of quality of life updates in Fontaine, so the resin increase wasn't that shocking. And it's like 1 extra domain run, it's not that big of a deal. The animated short is understandable since the next update is about the twins and Dingsleaf. We always have a live stream on the Friday that falls 10 days before the next update. And lastly, the Natlan teaser was to be expected. We will probably get another much longer one during the 4.8 live stream as well. Also, if all it took for MiHoYo to sabotage Wuthering Waves was 40 resin and an animated short, then it never stood a chance to begin with, which just isn't true, so take off your tinfoil hats and just play the game for God's sake. It's not that deep. I hope you enjoy whatever game you're playing. Tell me your thoughts on Wuthering Waves or whatever you're excited for in Genshin, like 4.7 or Natlan. This is mostly for Genshin players, but I will put a picture up just in case you want to choose. If you had to choose one of the Surians, which are the things in front of you, I think that's what they're called, which one would you choose? I'm partial to the water one personally. Anyways, that's all I have for today. Subscribe and see you whenever.